We're gonna go into body weight core exercises that you can utilize for wrestling, and we're gonna start right now. What's up, everybody? It's Dane Miller from GarageStrength.com, and if this is your first time to the channel and you're interested in getting more explosive, you want to be stronger, you want to become a better wrestler, make sure that you like, you subscribe, and you ring that notification bell so we can help you become a beast. So one of the next key exercises that I like to utilize for bodyweight core training for wrestling is going to be alternating V-ups. And so if you can think about in wrestling, when you're in your stance, you're moving around, you're always using both sides of your trunk, right? And you're always going to be trying to set up your opponent so that you can take that offensive attack. And you have to be moving your opponent from multiple different directions in all different aspects. And so one of those exercises here is that alternating V-ups is gonna force us to try and get a little bit more rotational strength. And so if you can think about holding that hollow position here, almost pushing your belly button into the ground, pushing that lower back into the ground, holding just a slightly flexed upper body and thinking, I wanna take my opposite knee to my opposite elbow. And even when I like to train this, I like to train that a little bit more rapidly, because what that's gonna do then, that as you're getting into being heavy on the head, now your trunk has been trained to be more explosive, and it's going to transfer over better to the wrestling mat. And so we gotta think about this. You can recover pretty well from this movement. You can do alternating V-ups 2 to 3 days a week for 3 to 4 sets of 12 to 15 reps on each side. That second key exercise that I love to utilize for my wrestlers with bodyweight core training is gonna be a hanging leg raise. And so this is something that if you're not even in the gym, you could go out on a tree branch and you could do hanging leg raises. If you're in a gym, you could use a pull-up bar, you can use a rig, you can use a rope, you could do 2 ropes together, anything that's gonna help you hanging. But one of the main reasons why I love this is that it's going to cue up your lats and your trunk to work together. And at the same time, you can work various grips on the pull-up bar. So if you're on a tree or anything along those lines, you can work that thumb under, you can work that thumb over. And then you can sit here, and the whole goal is that you're not rocking all over the place. You're trying to think about keeping those feet in front of your abs, keeping your feet in front of your hips. That's gonna create that little flexion inside of your trunk. And this is going to be something that as you get more endurance in this training, now we can start to work on our lat strength, our isometric strength, and our grip. So we're not only training our abs and our core, we're also going to be training that grip strength. One thing I love to do is also just adding in that plate. So if we put a plate on our toes, this makes the exercise incredibly hard. So this is only going to be something that you can really do inside of a gym. You could use dumbbells, you can even use a medicine ball, you can use this plate. And when we're doing this, you're gonna feel those lats start to fire even more. The grip is gonna fire even further. And now we can start thinking about getting that collar tie. It's the same type of ab strength that you have to utilize when you're getting into that collar tie position to manipulate your opponent. So you're gonna come up, let's see if I can talk at the same time. Try and prevent your body from swinging here. Try and get like 15 to 20 reps, keeping those toes dorsiflexed, the ankle dorsiflexed, and it's just like a quarter rep. That quarter rep's gonna light up your gut. Now, if you're really feeling up to it, I even recommend putting in 4 to 5 pull-ups right at the end of that set, and that's gonna blast your abs even further, and you're gonna feel that big time the next day. So another great bodyweight core exercise that you can utilize for wrestling is called the incline leg raises. And so if you don't have a decline bench, you can use a tree, you can use a table, you can use anything. It just won't be as declined. You could go on the steps even if you've got longer steps, you can utilize that. Anything that's gonna help you lengthen those lats and recruit in the trunk is going to help you with wrestling. Wrestling is almost always in this overextended position. We're almost always in an overhead position. So it's important to train our abs in that overhead position. And so when we're on the incline here, what we can think about is we want to grab here, so we're in that overhead position. Think about we're getting a collar tie. We're pulling the knee, we're getting a little knee pick, we're getting a high crotch, whatever it might be. We've got to coordinate our gut to finish these moves, and we've got to train it that way. We have to be aware of how our work in the weight room will transfer over onto the mat. So we've got this incline position. I'm going to squeeze a little bit with my grip here. I'm going to keep my head forward, and all I'm doing is the incline leg raise. But the key is that a lot of wrestlers have a slight posterior tilt, okay? Which means when they're doing this, their lower back starts to arch really hard, and it can hurt people. But what you want to focus on when you're doing this is cueing your wrestlers to push their belly button down. And so if you would stick your hand into my lower back, you can't break it through. And that's going to activate even further. And then over time, as you get more advanced, you can start to put plates on your shins. You can start to hold dumbbells, and that's going to make this even more challenging. But start just with that incline. You can use a tree outside on a hill. You can use a tree on the ground, whatever it is that you want to find for that bodyweight core training. You can do this 2 to 3 days a week for 3 sets of 17 reps, and you're going to feel that a lot because your abs are lengthening while you're flexing your lats, while you're also pushing that belly button down into the ground. So that number one exercise, and this is almost 3 exercises all into one for bodyweight core training for wrestling. This is going to be based around explosive knee planks. And then I'm going to demonstrate what a bear crawl is and what a walrus is. And so the reason why I love training explosive abs, because in most sports, what we're going to be doing is focus on explosive movement. And so I believe it's very important to even train your abs through that explosive area, okay? So what we have here, we got furniture sliders, and I even recommend if you've got a linoleum floor, you could use towels if you really want to. But what I like to utilize here is I'll have our wrestlers get into that push-up position here, and they'll come in really rapidly here, okay? Super aggressive. And so they can do one of 2 things. We can either do the walrus, which is basically a mobilized plank position. So we're gonna keep our thumbs facing each other, not out like this, thumbs facing each other. And this is where you're gonna feel this in your shoulder girdle, along with coordinating your hips and your abs here, okay? So this is extremely difficult, but if you're wrestling and you're grappling, you're gonna learn how to actually utilize that hand, your trunk, and your hips together. That's gonna help carry over to some really good mat strength. And if you don't want to do the walrus, or maybe you wanna focus even a little bit more on some hip flexion, some knee flexion with that trunk control, we can get into the bear crawl. So bear crawl, we're gonna establish here, so it's a little bit shorter. And with that hip flexion, it lights up your abs. You can really feel that throughout your entire gut. I'm dying. I recommend only doing this circuit once a week, 3 to 4 sets. Do about 15 knee planks, and then get into that sliding motion. Whew. So utilize all these exercises, but make sure that when you're doing this, you're focused on how they feel in the weight room, and then how you can utilize and make them feel on the mat. If you can carry that mind-muscle connection over to the mat, now you're gonna be a little bit stronger, you're gonna be a little more active when you're finishing somebody, when you're finishing a move, when you're in that collar tie position, it's gonna transfer quite a bit. If you need help with your wrestling-based training, click on the link down below. You can head over to GarageStrength.com. You can pick up our Vulcan off-season wrestling program. You can pick up our in-season wrestling program. It's gonna help you become a better wrestler, and your program will be geared towards all of that mat strength. If you want more content around wrestling-based training, click on this card right here. Until next time, guys, peace.